The 5 Enemies of Progress. Right now, as you're listening to this, 5 invisible enemies are working against you. They're not outside forces. They're not bad luck. They're inside you, silent, patient, and devastatingly effective. While you've been blaming your circumstances, your past, or your lack of resources, these 5 saboteurs have been quietly killing every chance you have at real progress. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're under attack. And for the first time in your life, you're about to see exactly who your real enemies are and how to destroy them before they destroy what's left of your potential. This is the 5 Enemies of Progress, and your war starts now. Chapter 1. Enemy number 1. Comfort. The silent assassin of ambition. Let's start with the first enemy. The one you've been calling safety, the one you've been protecting, the one that's been killing you slowly while you smiled and called it peace. Comfort. Not the kind of comfort that comes after a hard day's work. Not rest, not recovery. I'm talking about the comfort that keeps you in the same job year after year, even though it's draining your soul. The comfort that keeps you in relationships that stopped growing 3 years ago. The comfort that has you watching other people build empires while you watch Netflix and tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Comfort isn't rest. Comfort is a cage, and here's what makes it so dangerous. It doesn't feel like a cage. It feels safe. It feels reasonable. It feels like you're being smart, being cautious, being responsible. You wake up in the same bed, drive the same route, see the same people, have the same conversations. Eat the same lunch, and every single day you tell yourself the same lie. This is fine. I'm okay. Things could be worse. Things could be worse. That's the mantra of the comfortable. That's the epitome of low standards disguised as gratitude. You're not okay. You're dying. Slowly, quietly, comfortably. Every day you choose the familiar over the frightening. You're making a choice. You're choosing stagnation over growth. You're choosing the known over the possible. You're choosing to be the same person today that you were yesterday, and the same person tomorrow that you are today. And that compounds. Most people think staying the same means standing still. It doesn't. While you're comfortable, the world is moving. Technology is advancing. Industries are transforming. People who were behind you 5 years ago are now miles ahead because they were willing to be uncomfortable. They took the risk you talked yourself out of. They had the conversation you avoided. They made the move you were not ready for yet. You weren't standing still. You were falling behind, and comfort convinced you everything was fine. Let me tell you what your brain is doing to you. Your brain's primary job is not to make you successful. It's not to make you happy. It's not even to make you fulfilled. Your brain's job is to keep you alive. That's it. Survival. And in survival mode, comfort equals safety. Thousands of years ago, this made sense. Staying in the cave was safer than exploring unknown territory. Sticking with the tribe was safer than venturing alone. Repeating known patterns was safer than experimenting with new ones. Your ancestors who took unnecessary risks often died. Your ancestors who stayed comfortable often survived. So your brain developed a powerful bias toward the familiar. It rewards you with dopamine when you repeat safe patterns. It punishes you with anxiety when you attempt something new. It will actively sabotage your growth to protect your survival. This isn't a flaw. This is biology. But here's what your brain doesn't understand. The world has changed. Staying comfortable is no longer the safe choice. In a rapidly evolving world, staying the same is the riskiest thing you can do. The job you're comfortable in? It might not exist in 10 years. The relationship you're comfortable in? It's rotting from complacency. The version of yourself you're comfortable being? Already obsolete. Your brain is protecting you from the wrong thing. It's protecting you from the temporary discomfort of growth while exposing you to the permanent danger of irrelevance. It's keeping you safe from the fear of failure while guaranteeing the reality of regret. It's saving you from short-term pain while sentencing you to long-term suffering. Understanding this doesn't give you permission to stay stuck. It gives you power. Because now you know, when you feel that resistance, that voice saying, "Stay here, it's safe here, don't risk it," that's not wisdom. That's your biology trying to run software designed for a world that no longer exists. You have a choice. You can listen to that voice and stay comfortable. Or you can recognize it for what it is, an outdated survival mechanism, and override it. Every single day you stay comfortable, you're not standing still. You're paying a tax. I call it the comfort tax. And it compounds daily. Think about it like this. Imagine two people. Same age, same starting point, same potential. Person A chooses comfort. Every day they take the path of least resistance. They avoid difficult conversations. They stick with familiar routines. They don't push themselves. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just staying comfortable. Person B chooses discomfort. Not recklessly, but deliberately. Every day they do one thing that scares them a little. They have the hard conversation. They try the new approach. They push past the resistance. Just a little bit. Every single day. After one day, the difference is invisible. After 1 week, barely noticeable. After 1 month, still subtle. But after 1 year, person B is unrecognizable. After 5 years, they're living in a different universe, different career, different relationship, different financial reality, different level of confidence, skill, and opportunity. And person A, still comfortable, still safe, still exactly where they were 5 years ago, wondering why everyone else seems to be moving forward while they're stuck. That's the comfort tax. And you've been paying it every opportunity you didn't take because it felt risky. Every conversation you avoided because it might get uncomfortable. Every goal you downgraded to something more manageable. Every dream you edited to fit your current reality instead of expanding your reality to fit your dream. You've been paying, and the bill is coming due. Here's the truth you need to hear. Comfort is not your reward for working hard. Comfort is not the goal. Comfort is the thing standing between you and everything you actually want. You say you want financial freedom. But you're too comfortable in your current income to take the risk of starting that business, asking for that raise, or developing that new skill. You say you want deep, authentic relationships, but you're too comfortable avoiding conflict to have the real conversations that create intimacy. You say you want to transform your body, your mind, your life, but you're too comfortable in your current routines to disrupt them with the discipline required for change. Comfort is the gap between who you are and who you say you want to be, and the longer you stay comfortable, the wider that gap becomes, until eventually you stop believing the gap can even be closed. You start telling yourself, this is just who I am. I'm not the type of person who does that. Maybe I'm not meant for more. That's not self-awareness. That's comfort winning. So what do? You weaponize discomfort. You make it your daily practice. Every single day you do one thing that makes you uncomfortable. One thing that your brain resists. One thing that the old, comfortable version of you would never do. Send the email you've been avoiding. Have the conversation you've been postponing. Do the workout that feels too hard. Wake up earlier than feels natural. Create instead of consume. Build instead of browse. Just one thing. Every day. Because here's what happens. Your nervous system learns. It learns that discomfort doesn't equal danger. It learns that you can feel afraid and act anyway. It learns that temporary pain leads to permanent growth. And slowly, gradually, the things that terrified you become the things you do automatically. That's how you kill comfort. Not by eliminating it, but by making discomfort your new normal. You've identified the first enemy. Comfort, the silent assassin. The thing you've been calling safety while it quietly murdered your ambition. Now you see it. Now you know what it's costing you. And now you have a choice. Stay comfortable and pay the tax. Or embrace discomfort and reclaim your potential. The choice is yours. But know this. You cannot defeat the other four enemies while comfort still controls you. Every battle ahead requires you to be willing to feel afraid, uncertain, and exposed. Comfort is the foundation all the other enemies build on. Destroy it first. You've met your first enemy. Now let's talk about the one that sounds like reason but speaks pure sabotage. Chapter 2. Enemy. Number 2. Fear. The liar that speaks in your own voice. You've destroyed comfort. Or at least, you've seen it for what it is. Now let's talk about the enemy that's been stopping you at every turn, and you didn't even know it was there. Fear. But not the kind of fear you recognize. Not the racing heart when you're in actual danger. Not the adrenaline when you're under real threat. I'm talking about the fear that sounds exactly like you. The fear that speaks in your own voice. The fear that disguises itself as wisdom. This is the most dangerous enemy you face, because comfort you can identify. Comfort is obvious once you see it. But fear? Fear is a master of disguise. Fear doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up and say, "Hey, I'm fear, and I'm here to stop you." That would be too easy. You'd recognize it. You'd fight it. You'd override it. Instead, fear dresses up as rational thinking. It puts on a suit and calls itself logic. It pretends to be the voice of reason, the mature perspective, the smart approach. Be realistic, it says, and you think you're being wise. What if you fail, it asks, and you think you're being thorough. You're not ready yet, it whispers, and you think you're being responsible. But it's not wisdom. It's not logic. It's not reason. It's fear. And every time you listen, you're letting the enemy write your script. Think about the last opportunity you talked yourself out of. The business you didn't start. The person you didn't approach. The job you didn't apply for. The move you didn't make. What was the voice in your head saying? I bet it sounded reasonable. I bet it sounded smart. I bet it gave you perfectly logical reasons why now wasn't the right time, why you needed more preparation, why the risk was too high. That wasn't you thinking clearly. That was fear speaking in your voice. Here's how you know the difference. Wisdom moves you forward with caution. Fear stops you completely with excuses. Wisdom says, "This is risky, so let's be strategic." Fear says, "This is risky, so let's not do it at all." Wisdom prepares you for action. Fear prepares you for avoidance. And the brilliant thing about fear, the thing that makes it so effective, is that it's always right in the moment. When fear tells you that you might fail, it's technically true. You might. When fear tells you that people might judge you, it's technically accurate. They might. When fear tells you that you're not guaranteed success, it's not lying. You're not. But fear only tells you half the truth. It tells you about the risk. It never tells you about the cost of not trying. Let me tell you about the paralysis paradox. Most people approach fear completely backwards. They think the sequence is eliminate fear, then take action. They think they need to feel brave first, confident first, ready first. So they wait. They prepare. They plan. They consume more information, take more courses, wait for more signs, hope for more certainty. And while they wait, something happens. Fear grows. Fear doesn't shrink with preparation. Fear grows with hesitation. Every day you wait to have that conversation, the conversation gets harder in your mind. Every week you postpone starting that project, the project becomes more intimidating. Every month you avoid making that change, the change seems more impossible. You're not getting more prepared, you're getting more paralyzed. Because here's what your brain does. The longer you avoid something, the more dangerous your brain decides it must be. If we've been avoiding it this long, your brain reasons, it must be really threatening. Let's avoid it even harder. So you find more reasons not to act. More what-ifs, more contingencies you haven't planned for, more skills you need to develop first, more perfect conditions you need to wait for, and the fear gets bigger, and the paralysis gets tighter. And the gap between where you are and where you want to be becomes a chasm you can't imagine crossing. That's the paradox. The thing you think will eliminate fear, waiting, preparing, planning, is actually feeding it. The only antidote to fear is action. Not courage, action. You don't act because you're brave. You act, then bravery follows. Courage isn't a prerequisite. Courage is a result. Think about it. Every single time you've done something that scared you, and I mean actually done it, not just thought about it. What happened afterward? The fear didn't disappear before you acted. It was there the whole time. But the moment you moved, something shifted. The fear lost its grip. Not completely, but enough. And the next time you faced something similar, it was a little less scary. Not because you eliminated fear, but because you built evidence that you could act despite it. That's the key. You're not trying to become fearless. You're becoming fear-proof. There's a difference. Fearless means the absence of fear. That's not real. That's not human. Fear-proof means fear is present, but powerless. Fear is talking, but you're not listening. Fear is screaming, but you're moving anyway. Every time you act despite fear, you're casting a vote for the person who doesn't let fear make decisions. Do it enough times, and that person becomes who you are. But here's what fear doesn't want you to know. The things it's protecting you from aren't even real. Fear is keeping you safe from imaginary threats, rejection that won't kill you, failure that will teach you, embarrassment that people will forget in a week. These are not life or death situations. These are temporary discomforts. Uncomfortable? Yes. Dangerous? No. Meanwhile, the real threat is invisible. The real threat is the slow death of never trying, never knowing, never becoming who you were capable of being. 20 years from now, the rejection you avoided won't matter. The failure you were afraid of won't matter. What will matter is that you never tried, that you let fear decide, that you spent your entire life playing it safe and wondering what could have been. Fear is protecting you from the wrong thing. It's protecting you from short-term discomfort while exposing you to long-term regret. It's keeping you safe from temporary pain while guaranteeing permanent disappointment. You have a choice. You can keep listening to fear and stay safe. Or you can recognize fear for what it is, a liar wearing your face, and move anyway. Here's your new relationship with fear. When fear shows up, and it will, you don't fight it. You don't try to eliminate it. You don't wait for it to go away. You thank it for pointing you toward what matters. Because fear only shows up around things that are significant. You're not afraid of doing laundry. You're not afraid of scrolling social media. You're afraid of things that could change your life, things that matter, things that have weight. So when fear shows up and says, "Don't do this, it's too risky," you translate, "This is important. This could change everything. Pay attention." Then you move, not recklessly, but deliberately. You feel the fear, you acknowledge it, and you act anyway. That's how you destroy this enemy. Not by making it disappear, but by making it irrelevant. Start small if you need to. Do one thing today that scares you a little. Send the message, make the call, post the thing, have the conversation. Just one micro action that fear told you not to do. Then do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. You're not building fearlessness, you're building a track record. Evidence that fear's predictions don't come true. Evidence that you can feel afraid and survive. Evidence that action shrinks fear while hesitation feeds it. And over time, something remarkable happens. The voice of fear gets quieter. Not because fear is gone, but because you've stopped treating it like an authority. It's just noise now. Background static. Irrelevant data from an outdated system. You've identified the second enemy. Fear. The liar. The one that sounds like reason, but speaks pure sabotage. The one that's been writing your script in your own voice. Now you see it. Now you know its tricks. And now you know the truth. Courage doesn't come before action. Courage is what you call yourself after you acted despite being afraid. Stop waiting to be ready. Stop waiting to be certain. Stop waiting for fear to give you permission. It never will. That's the point. Feel the fear. Thank it for caring. Then move anyway. You faced comfort. You faced fear. Now let's talk about the enemy that's been stealing your most valuable resource while you weren't even watching. Enemy number 3. Distraction. The thief disguised as productivity. Chapter 3. Enemy number 3. Distraction. The thief disguised as productivity. You've defeated comfort. You're moving despite fear. But there's a third enemy waiting. And this one is more sophisticated than the others. This one doesn't stop you from working. It just makes sure your work doesn't matter. Distraction. And I'm not talking about the obvious stuff. I'm not talking about binge-watching Netflix when you should be working. That's not the enemy I'm worried about. That's easy to identify. That's lazy distraction. You know when you're doing it, and you know it's wrong. I'm talking about the distraction that feels like productivity. The distraction that looks like work. The distraction that lets you feel busy while accomplishing nothing. You're not busy. You're distracted. There's a massive difference between being productive and being in motion. Motion is activity. Productivity is progress. And most people have confused the two so thoroughly that they can work 12-hour days and still wonder why nothing in their life is changing. Let me paint you a picture. You wake up, check your email, respond to a few messages, scroll through social media to stay informed, attend a meeting that could have been an email, check your email again, reorganize your workspace, research something tangentially related to your actual goal, attend another meeting, check your phone, respond to texts, browse articles, check email one more time, and by the end of the day, you're exhausted. You were busy all day. You were in motion all day. But what did you actually build? What actually moved forward? What's different now than it was this morning? Nothing. You were moving, but you weren't progressing. You were busy, but you weren't building. You were in motion, but you were standing still. That's distraction wearing the mask of productivity, and it's stealing your life. Every hour you spend on fake productivity is an hour stolen from real progress. Every day you spend in motion without moving forward is a day you'll never get back. And the worst part? You feel like you're working. You feel like you're trying. So when nothing changes, you think the problem is that you're not working hard enough. You are working hard enough. You're just working on the wrong things. Here's what makes distraction so dangerous. It's designed to feel important. The most effective distractions don't look like distractions. They look like responsibilities. They look like work. They look like things you should be doing. Checking email feels responsible. Attending meetings feels professional. Staying updated on social media feels necessary. Responding to every message immediately feels courteous. Being available to everyone feels generous, but none of it moves you forward. These are urgent tasks. But urgent is not the same as important. Urgent screams for your attention. Important quietly builds your future. And if you spend your entire life responding to urgent, you'll never have time for important. That's the trap. Distraction has been weaponized. There's an entire economy built around capturing and monetizing your attention. Social media platforms that profit when you scroll. News cycles that profit when you panic. Entertainment companies that profit when you binge. Advertisers that profit when you consume. Your attention is currency, and you've been giving it away for free to anyone who asks. Every notification is a transaction. Every alert is a bid for your focus. Every breaking news headline is a hook designed to pull you away from what matters. And unless you guard your focus like your life depends on it, because it does, you'll wake up at 60 wondering where the time went. You'll wonder why you never wrote the book. Never started the business. Never had the conversations. Never built the thing. Never became the person. And the answer will be simple. You were distracted. For 40 years. By things that felt important but weren't. By motion that felt like progress but wasn't. By busyness that felt like success but wasn't. Let me tell you what distraction really is. Distraction is a decision. It's not random. It's not accidental. It's not just happening to you. Deep down, you know what you should be working on. You know the project that matters. You know the conversation you need to have. You know the hard choice you need to make, but it's uncomfortable. It's difficult. It requires focus, energy, and the willingness to possibly fail. So instead, you find something else to do. Something easier. Something that feels productive enough to justify, but doesn't require the same level of effort or risk. You check your phone. You respond to messages that could wait. You start a less important task. You research instead of create. You plan instead of execute. You consume instead of produce. And you tell yourself you'll get to the important thing later. When you have more time. When you're more prepared. When the conditions are better. When you feel more motivated, later never comes. You know this. You've lived this. Distraction isn't random. It's your subconscious fleeing from significance. It's your mind protecting you from the discomfort of doing hard, meaningful work. And every time you give in, every time you choose the easy distraction over the hard work, you're choosing to stay exactly who you are instead of becoming who you could be. The price is your potential. Think about it. What's the one project that would actually change your life if you completed it? Not the busy work. Not the maintenance tasks. The thing that scares you a little when you think about it. The thing you keep postponing. The thing you know matters. How many hours have you spent not working on that thing? How many days? How many months? And what were you doing instead? I'll tell you what you were doing. You were busy. You were in motion. You were distracted, and that thing is still not done. And your life is still not changed. And you're still wondering when it's going to happen. It's not going to happen until you kill distraction. Here's how you do it. You protect your attention like it's your most valuable currency. Because it is. Attention isn't renewable. You don't get more of it tomorrow. Every hour you give to distraction is gone forever. Create non-negotiable focus blocks. 2 hours. 3 hours. Whatever you can protect. Phone off. Not on silent, off, notifications dead. Door closed. Email closed. Social media logged out. Just you and the work that matters. Treat this time like surgery. Nobody interrupts a surgeon mid-operation. Why? Because the work is life or death. Your focus time is the same. The difference between the life you have and the life you want lives in these protected hours. This is where transformation happens. This is where real work gets done, but you have to guard it, ferociously, because the world will demand your attention. Your phone will buzz. People will need things. Emergencies will emerge, and 99% of them can wait. The email can wait. The text can wait. The meeting can be rescheduled. The news will still be there later. None of it is as important as the work you're avoiding. And here's what you need to understand. Every time you break focus to check a notification, you're not just losing 30 seconds. You're losing the next 20 minutes it takes your brain to get back into deep work. Every interruption has a cost, a real measurable cost in terms of output, quality, and progress. You cannot build anything meaningful with fragmented attention. You cannot create anything significant in 5-minute increments between distractions. Deep work requires deep focus, and deep focus requires ruthless protection. So you decide, right now, what's the one thing that would actually change your life if you gave it your full attention? Not divided attention, not leftover attention. Full, focused, protected attention. Then you schedule it. Not when you have time. You'll never have time. You make time. You block it. You protect it. And you treat everything else as secondary. Because here's the truth. If it's not scheduled, it's not real. If it doesn't have protected time, it's just a wish. A someday, a maybe. And someday is the most dangerous word in any language. Start tomorrow. 1 focus block. 2 hours. No distractions. No exceptions. No negotiations. Just you and the work that matters. Do that every day for a month, and your life will be unrecognizable. Not because you worked more hours, because you worked the right hours, because you stopped confusing motion with progress, because you stopped letting distraction steal your potential. You've identified the third enemy, distraction, the thief. The one that feels like work but builds nothing. The one that keeps you busy while your dreams die of neglect. Now you see it. Now you know its tricks. And now you know what it's costing you. You have a choice. Stay busy and stay stuck. Or protect your focus and build what matters. The world will always offer you distractions. Your job is to decline the offer. You've defeated comfort. You've moved despite fear. You've protected your focus from distraction. Now let's talk about the enemy that's been running your life from the shadows, using voices you don't even recognize as weapons. Chapter 4. Enemy there before. Other people's opinions. The invisible prison. You've beaten comfort. You've acted despite fear. You've protected your focus from distraction. But there's a fourth enemy, and this one is invisible. This one doesn't live in your head. It lives in theirs, but somehow it controls everything you do. Other people's opinions. Let me ask you something. How many decisions have you made this week based on what someone else might think? Not what you wanted. Not what aligned with your goals. What they would think. The career path you chose because it sounded respectable. The relationship you stayed in because leaving would disappoint people. The dream you downgraded because it seemed too ambitious to admit out loud. The opinion you didn't share because it might make someone uncomfortable. The risk you didn't take because you couldn't handle the "I told you so" if it failed. You're not making decisions. You're managing perceptions. And somewhere along the way, you built a prison, an invisible prison, built from expectations, judgment, and the desperate need for approval. You can't see the bars, but you feel them every time you edit yourself, shrink yourself, or silence yourself to keep everyone else comfortable. You're living in a cage, and you built it yourself. With their voices, from the moment you were born, you were trained to seek approval. Your parents praised you when you behaved. Your teachers rewarded you when you performed. Your peers accepted you when you conformed. And your brain learned a simple equation. Approval equals safety. Disapproval equals danger. So you became an expert at reading the room, anticipating reactions, adjusting your behavior to match expectations. And it worked. You stayed safe. You stayed accepted. You stayed approved of. But somewhere in that process, their voices became louder than your own. Somewhere you stopped asking, "What do I want?" and started asking, "What will they think?" Now you're making career decisions based on what will impress your family. You're making relationship choices based on what will satisfy society's timeline. You're making creative choices based on what will avoid criticism. You're making life choices based on what will maintain approval, and it's killing you. Slowly, quietly, invisibly. Because here's what approval costs: your truth, your dreams, your potential, your authenticity. Everything that makes you actually you gets sacrificed at the altar of other people's comfort. You're editing your dreams to fit their comfort zones. You want to start a business, but you tell yourself it's unrealistic because that's what they said. You want to leave the career that's draining you, but you stay because what will people think? You want to pursue something unconventional, but you don't because you can't handle their confusion, their concern, their subtle disappointment. You're not protecting yourself. You're protecting them from having to adjust their expectations of you, from having to witness you becoming someone they didn't predict, from having to deal with their own discomfort at your growth, and you're sacrificing yourself to do it. Let me tell you the brutal truth about the opinions that control you. Most of them come from people who don't matter. People who aren't thinking about you at all. That neighbor whose judgment you're worried about? They're worried about their own problems. That former classmate you're trying to impress? They barely remember you exist. That distant relative whose approval you're seeking? They're consumed with their own life. Most of the people whose opinions run your life aren't even paying attention. They're too busy managing their own invisible prisons, worrying about what other people think of them, living in their own cages built from expectations. You're giving strangers and acquaintances veto power over your life. You're letting people who don't know your dreams, don't understand your journey, and don't live with your consequences make your decisions for you, and even the people who are judging you, even the ones who actually have opinions about your choices. Their judgment reveals everything about their limitations and nothing about yours. When someone tells you your dream is unrealistic, that's not data about your dream. That's data about the size of their imagination. When someone questions your unconventional choice, that's not insight into your path. That's fear speaking from their comfort zone. When someone judges your ambition, that's not commentary on your potential. That's their regret about their own unlived life. Their limitations are not your ceiling. Their fears are not your facts. Their comfort zones are not your boundaries. But you've been treating them like they are. You've been letting their small thinking define your big dreams. You've been letting their lack of vision limit your possibilities. You've been letting their need for you to stay predictable keep you from becoming extraordinary. That stops now. Here's what freedom looks like. You stop performing for an audience that doesn't exist. Because that's what you've been doing. You've been living like you're on stage. Like every choice, every move, every decision is being watched, evaluated, and judged by a panel of experts who will determine your worth. You're not on stage. There is no panel. There is no audience. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to care about your choices. They're not watching. They're not judging. They're not even thinking about you. And that should be liberating, not insulting. The few people who are judging you, they'll judge you no matter what you do. You play it safe, they'll judge you for being boring. You take a risk, they'll judge you for being reckless. You stay small, they'll judge you for wasting potential. You go big, they'll judge you for being arrogant. There is no version of you that will satisfy everyone. So stop trying. Stop contorting yourself into shapes that might earn approval. Stop editing your truth to match their expectations. Stop living a life designed by committee. You might as well disappoint them while building the life you actually want. Because here's the choice. You can spend your entire life managing their comfort and die with your dreams unbuilt. Or you can disappoint them strategically, pursue what matters, and live with the peace of knowing you didn't sacrifice your truth for their approval. One of those paths ends in regret. The other ends in respect for yourself. Their discomfort with your growth is not your responsibility. Read that again. Their discomfort with your growth is not your responsibility. When you change, evolve, or pursue something they don't understand, they might get uncomfortable. They might question you. They might pull away. They might express concern that sounds like criticism. That's not your problem to fix. That's their problem to process. You don't need their permission. You don't need their understanding. You don't even need their support. What you need is the courage to move anyway. Here's how you do it. You build an opinion firewall. You decide whose voices get access to your decision-making process. Make a list. 3 to 5 people maximum. People who've built what you want to build. People who understand your vision. People who've earned their seat at your table through wisdom, experience, and demonstrated results. Everyone else's opinion? Noise, background static. Irrelevant data from irrelevant sources. This isn't arrogance. This is survival. You cannot build an extraordinary life while listening to ordinary people's fears. You cannot create something unprecedented while seeking approval from people who've never done anything like it. So you filter, ruthlessly. When someone offers unsolicited advice, you smile and ignore it. When someone questions your path, you thank them for their concern and keep moving. When someone judges your choices, you remember that their judgment is about them, not you, and you disappoint people. Strategically, unapologetically. Say no to commitments that drain you. Set boundaries that protect your time. Make choices that advance your goals even when people question them. Stop showing up to events you don't want to attend. Stop explaining decisions that don't require justification. Stop apologizing for outgrowing relationships that no longer serve you. The discomfort of disappointing others is temporary. The regret of sacrificing your dreams to maintain their comfort is permanent. Choose your hard. You have a choice. You can keep living in the invisible prison, making decisions based on what they'll think, editing yourself to maintain approval, dying slowly while they barely notice. Or you can walk out, stop performing, stop seeking permission, stop sacrificing your truth for their comfort. The prison door has been open this entire time. You just didn't know you were allowed to leave. Now you know. You've identified the fourth enemy. Other people's opinions. The invisible prison. The voices that became louder than your own. The expectations that became your cage. Now you see it. Now you know what it's costing you. And now you know the truth. Their approval is not required for your success. Their understanding is not necessary for your growth. Their comfort is not your responsibility. You don't need their permission. You never did. You've beaten comfort. You've moved despite fear. You've protected your focus. You've stopped performing for approval. Now let's talk about the final enemy. The one that's been with you the longest. The one that knows you better than anyone else. The one that's been using your own history as a weapon against your future. Enemy number 5. Your past self. The ghost that haunts your future. Chapter 5. Enemy number 5. Your past self. The ghost that haunts your future. You're being controlled by someone who no longer exists. Think about that. Every decision you're making right now, it's not you making it. It's the version of you from 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The one who failed. The one who got humiliated. The one who wasn't ready. That person is dead. But you're still listening to them. You're avoiding opportunities because they got burned. You're playing small because they weren't capable. You're staying safe because they got hurt. Here's what you need to understand. Your past self is a ghost, and you've given that ghost complete authority over your life. The stories you tell yourself are running your life. I'm not good at math. I always quit. I'm bad with money. I can't trust people. Listen to yourself. These aren't observations. They're identities. They're prophecies you're making come true every single day. You tried something once and failed, so you decided that's who you are. You got hurt, so you built a story around why you'll always get hurt. And now, you're unconsciously proving yourself right. That's what makes this so dangerous. You're not just remembering your past, you're recreating it. You see an opportunity that requires public speaking, and you immediately think, I'm not good at that. Why? Because you bombed a presentation in high school 15 years ago. You've let one moment define decades of decisions. Someone offers you a chance to invest, to build something, to step into leadership, and you say no. Not because you can't do it now, but because the old version of you couldn't do it then. You're making choices that confirm the story. You're avoiding situations that would contradict it. And every time you do that, you're strengthening the grip your past has on your future. Here's the truth. Your past doesn't predict your future unless you let it. And right now, you're letting it. You're protecting someone who no longer needs protection. Let me ask you something. Why are you still playing defense? You developed these patterns for a reason. The comfort-seeking, the fear, the distraction, the people-pleasing. They protected you once. They got you through something hard, but that version of you is gone. You're stronger now. More capable, more aware. You've survived what you were afraid wouldn't survive. You've learned what you didn't know then. And yet you're still wearing armor designed for battles you're no longer fighting. You're carrying shields that are just weighing you down. Think about it. You avoid conflict because once, years ago, conflict destroyed you. But you're not that fragile anymore. You've been through worse since then, and you're still here. You don't take risks because risk burned you once. But you're not that inexperienced anymore. You know things now that you didn't know then. You stay small because being visible felt dangerous. But you're not that powerless anymore. You have skills, resources, confidence you didn't have before. The defenses made sense then. They don't make sense now. You're protecting a version of yourself that no longer exists. And in doing so, you're preventing the version of yourself that could exist from ever emerging. It's time to kill the ghost. Here's what you do. First, you identify the stories. Write them down. I'm not good at X. I always fail at Y. I can't do Z. Second, you ask yourself, when did I decide this? What happened that made me believe this about myself? You'll find it's usually one moment, one failure, one embarrassment, one rejection, one single moment. And you've been letting that moment run your entire life. Third, you ask, is this still true? Not was it true then? Is it true now? Are you still the same person who didn't know what you know now? Who hadn't developed the skills you have now? Who hadn't survived what you've survived since then? No, you're not. The story is outdated. The ghost is lying to you. Fourth, you make one decision, just one, that contradicts the old story. If the story is I always quit, you pick something and you don't quit. Not because it's comfortable, because it rewrites the narrative. If the story is I'm bad with money, you make one financially intelligent choice. You save $50. You read one chapter of a finance book. You track your spending for 1 week. If the story is I can't trust people, you take one small risk with one person. You share something real. You ask for help. One decision. That's all it takes to prove the ghost wrong. And then you do it again and again until the new story is stronger than the old one. The past only has power. If you give it permission, your past self made mistakes. Got hurt, failed, wasn't ready. That's fine. That's part of becoming who you are now. But you don't owe that version of yourself loyalty. You don't have to keep making decisions based on their limitations. They were doing the best they could with what they had. But you're not them anymore. You have more now. More knowledge, more strength, more clarity, and you get to decide right now, in this moment, whether you're going to keep living in their shadow or step into the light as who you actually are. The ghost only haunts you if you let it. You have a choice. You can keep replaying the same old story, proving it right, staying safe in the familiar cage of who you used to be, or you can become someone new. Someone the old you would be proud of. Someone who took the lessons but left the limitations behind. That's the key. Your past gave you information. It doesn't get to give you orders. Stop letting a dead version of yourself run your life. You've spent years being controlled by your past. Now it's time to face the pattern that's stealing your present, the invisible enemy that keeps you stuck even when you know exactly what you need to do. Chapter 6. How the 5 enemies work together to keep you trapped. Here's what you haven't realized yet. These 5 enemies aren't working alone. They're a system. A network. A web that tightens every single time you try to break free. And right now, you're caught in the center of it. The enemies are connected. Trigger 1, activate them. I'll watch how this works. You feel fear. Real fear about taking a risk, starting something, putting yourself out there. So what do? You reach for comfort. You scroll. You snack. You binge another show. You tell yourself you'll deal with it tomorrow. Now you're comfortable. And in that comfort, you become vulnerable to distraction. Your attention splinters. You bounce between tasks. You convince yourself busy is the same as productive. But deep down, you know you're avoiding the real work. So what do? You shift your focus to what other people think. You post something for validation. You check the comments. You refresh your email. You measure your worth by external approval because it's easier than measuring it by what you actually accomplished. And when you inevitably fall short, when you don't get the response you wanted, your past self whispers, "See? I told you. You're not good enough. You never were." That's the cycle. Fear triggers comfort. Comfort enables distraction. Distraction redirects you toward approval seeking. And the whole system reinforces the story your past self has been telling you all along. These enemies don't attack separately. They collaborate. They hand you off to each other like you're prey being passed between predators. One feeds into the next. And the next. And the next. Until you can't even remember what you were trying to do in the first place. Your brain mistakes. This trap for safety. Here's the worst part. This system feels good. That's why it's so dangerous. Staying comfortable feels safe. Your nervous system calms down. Your brain rewards you with a hit of relief. Avoiding fear feels smart. I'm being cautious, you tell yourself. I'm being strategic. Your brain interprets this as wisdom. Following distractions feels productive. Look at all those tabs open. Look at all that research. Look how busy you are. Your brain gives you credit for motion, even when there's no progress. Seeking approval feels necessary. I need to know if this is good, you say. I need feedback. Your brain tells you this is collaboration, connection, smart business. Believing your past self feels like self-awareness. I'm just being realistic about my limitations, you think. Your brain calls this honesty, but here's the truth. Your brain is lying to you. It's not protecting you. It's trapping you. Your brain mistakes the trap for safety because the trap is familiar. It knows this pattern. It's survived this pattern. So it keeps running the same program over and over. Survival isn't living. Safe isn't the same as fulfilled. You're not in danger. You're just stuck. And there's a massive difference between those two things. But your brain can't tell the difference. So it keeps you locked in the same cycle, convinced it's keeping you alive, when really it's just keeping you small. You can't negotiate your way out. Let me be very clear about something. You can't make peace. With these enemies, you can't manage them. You can't befriend them. You can't negotiate a compromise where you face your fear and stay comfortable. It doesn't work that way. I've watched people try. They'll say, "Okay, I'll push through my fear, but I'll still check my phone between tasks." That's not progress. That's just rearranging the trap. They'll say, "I'll stop caring what people think, but I'm still going to avoid anything that makes me uncomfortable." That won't work either. The enemies are connected, remember? Leave one in place, and the others come roaring back. You can't face your fear while still seeking constant approval. The moment things get hard, you'll run back to validation to soothe yourself. You can't break free from your past self while still choosing comfort over growth. The old story thrives in comfortable territory. You can't eliminate distraction while still avoiding fear. Distraction is the avoidance mechanism. They're the same thing. These enemies demand total warfare, not partial effort. Not, I'll try my best. Not, I'll work on one at a time. Total, simultaneous, uncompromising warfare. The actual requirements for transformation. You want to know what it really takes? You have to be willing to become uncomfortable. Not occasionally, constantly. You have to choose the hard thing over and over until hard becomes normal. You have to be willing to be afraid. Not to eliminate fear, to act despite it. To let fear scream in your ear while you move forward anyway. You have to be willing to be focused. To cut off every escape route. To sit with one task, one goal, one priority until it's done. No relief, no distraction, just focus. You have to be willing to be unapproved. To disappoint people. To be misunderstood. To have people think you crazy, reckless, selfish, or wrong. And to keep going anyway. You have to be willing to be unrecognizable to your past self. To make decisions that the old you would never make. To become someone the old you wouldn't even recognize. All 5. At once. That's not motivational fluff. That's not a metaphor. That's the actual requirement. Because the enemies work together, you have to dismantle them together. You can't leave one standing and expect the others to fall. The system will rebuild itself around whatever piece you left intact. This is war, and war requires a strategy. Here's your strategy. Every day, you identify which enemy is active. Is it fear, comfort, distraction, approval, your past self? Then you ask, which other enemies are being triggered by this one? If you're stuck in distraction, you ask, what fear am I avoiding? What comfort am I seeking? Whose approval am I chasing instead of doing real work? If you're people-pleasing, you ask, what discomfort am I trying to avoid by seeking validation? What story from my past am I proving right by needing external permission? You trace the connections. You see the web, and then you attack all of it. You choose the uncomfortable action. The one that scares you. The one that requires focus. The one people won't understand. The one your past self would never attempt. You do that thing. Today. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now. Because here's what you need to understand. The web is strongest when you're thinking about it. It's weakest when you're acting despite it. The enemies thrive in hesitation. They die in momentum. You have to be willing to burn it all down. The system that's kept you trapped. It's built on patterns you've repeated for years. Maybe decades. You're not going to dismantle it with gentle adjustments. You're going to have to burn it down. That means destroying your comfort zones. Confronting your fears head-on. Eliminating distractions completely. Disappointing people you've spent your life trying to please. Becoming someone your past self wouldn't recognize. That's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. Transformation isn't comfortable. It's not safe. It's not approved by the people around you. It's not consistent with who you used to be. That's the whole point. You're not trying to improve the old you. You're trying to become someone entirely different, and that requires declaring war on everything that made you who you were. That's the key. The enemies work together, so your response has to be total. No negotiation, no compromise, no halfway measures. You go to war with all 5, simultaneously, relentlessly, until the web is destroyed and you're finally free. You've seen how the enemies work together. Now it's time to learn the weapon that breaks them all, the one discipline that, when mastered, makes every other battle easier to win. Chapter 8. The Battle Plan. Destroying enemy thus to 3 and thus before. Distraction and other people's opinions. Let's talk about the 2 enemies that are stealing your life in real time. Distraction and other people's opinions. These aren't abstract concepts. They're not background problems you'll deal with eventually. They're robbing you. Right now, today, this hour, and if you don't destroy them,
they will destroy everything you're trying to build. Your attention is your most valuable currency. Here's what you need to understand. Attention isn't renewable. Money?
You can make more. Relationships? You can rebuild them. Opportunities? New ones come along. But time, attention? Once it's gone forever. Every hour you give to distraction is an hour you'll never get back. Every minute you spend scrolling is a minute you didn't spend building. Every notification you respond to is a piece of your focus you'll never recover. And yet you treat your attention like it's unlimited. Like it's cheap. Like you can afford to give it away to anyone and anything that asks for it. You can't. Your attention is the currency that buys your future. And right now, you're spending it on garbage. So here's what you do. You create non-negotiable focus blocks. Not, I'll try to focus. Not, I'll minimize distractions. Non-negotiable, phone off. Not on silent, off, or in another room. Somewhere you can't reach it without getting up and breaking your flow. Notifications dead. All of them. Email, Slack, text, everything. They don't get access to you during your focus time. Door closed. If you have a door, close it. If you don't, create a signal that tells people you're unavailable. Headphones on, sign up. Whatever it takes. Treat your deep work time like surgery. Nobody interrupts a surgeon mid-operation. You know why? Because the work is life or death. The surgeon's focus is the difference between saving a life and losing one. Your focus time is the same. Maybe you're not literally saving lives, but you're building one. Yours. Every hour of focused work is building the future you say you want. Every interruption is destroying it. The world will demand your attention, constantly, aggressively, without shame or apology. Your job is to refuse, build an opinion firewall. Now let's talk about other people's opinions. Not all opinions deserve consideration. Read that again. Most of the feedback you're getting, most of the criticism, most of the helpful advice, it's coming from people who haven't done what you're trying to do. Who don't understand what you're trying to build. Who are projecting their own fears and limitations onto your life, and you're letting it slow you down. Here's what you do. You create a short list. 3 to 5 people maximum. These are the people whose judgment you actually respect. Who are they? People who've built what you want to build. People who understand your vision because they've executed similar visions. People who've earned their seat at your table through their actions, not their words. Those people, you listen to them. You consider their feedback. You take their concerns seriously. Everyone else? Static. Noise. Irrelevant data from irrelevant sources. Your mom who wants you to play it safe because she's scared of risk. Not on the list. Your friend who's comfortable being mediocre and wants you to stay there with them. Not on the list. The coworker who's been in the same position for 10 years and thinks your ambition is naive. Not on the list. The internet stranger who has opinions about everything but hasn't built anything. Definitely not on the list. This isn't arrogance. It's survival. You can't build an extraordinary life while listening to ordinary people's fears. Their concerns aren't about you. They're about them. Their limitations. Their comfort zones. Their failed attempts, or their unwillingness to even try, and you're letting their voices drown out the one voice that actually matters. Yours. You cannot avoid. Disappointing people. Let me tell you something you already know, but keep trying to pretend isn't true. You cannot avoid disappointing others. It's literally impossible. No matter what you do, someone will be unhappy about it. Someone will question it. Someone will think you're making a mistake. If you play it safe, the people who wanted you to be bold will be disappointed. If you take risks, The people who wanted you to be careful will be disappointed. If you say yes to everything, you'll disappoint yourself. If you say no to protect your time, you'll disappoint them. There's no path that keeps everyone happy. That option doesn't exist. So here's what you do. You disappoint people strategically and unapologetically. You disappoint them on your terms, not theirs. Say no to commitments that drain you. The dinner you don't want to attend. The project that isn't aligned with your goals. The favor that costs you hours you can't afford to give. Set boundaries that protect your time. I don't take calls after 6 p.m. I don't check email on weekends. I need 3 hours of uninterrupted work every morning. Non-negotiable. Make choices that advance your goals even when people question them. Leave the secure job. Start the business. Move to the new city. End the relationship that's holding you back. They're going to be uncomfortable with your choices. Let them be. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Their fear is not your problem. Their need for you to stay small so they feel better about staying small, that's on them. Not you. Choose your heart. Here's the truth about disappointing people. The discomfort of disappointing others is temporary. They'll get over it. They'll adjust. They'll find someone else to fill the role you're vacating. Or they'll respect you more for having boundaries. But you know what's permanent? The regret of sacrificing your dreams to maintain their comfort. That regret doesn't fade. It grows, it compounds. It turns into bitterness and resentment and a deep, gnawing feeling that you traded your life for other people's approval. You're going to be uncomfortable either way. You can be uncomfortable disappointing others while building what you want, or you can be uncomfortable living a life you don't want to keep others comfortable. Both options are hard, but one leads somewhere. The other leads nowhere. Choose your heart. This is what winning looks like. Winning looks like protecting your attention like it's sacred. Because it is. Winning looks like turning off your phone for 3 hours and getting more done than most people do in 3 days. Winning looks like having a short list of trusted advisors and treating everyone else's opinions like background noise. Winning looks like saying no without explanation, without apology, without guilt. Winning looks like disappointing people you care about because you care about your future more. That's not selfish. That's survival. You can't build an extraordinary life with average habits. You can't achieve exceptional results while giving your attention to everything and everyone that asks for it. You have to protect what matters, ruthlessly, unapologetically, consistently, your attention, your focus, your time, your standards. These are the things that will determine whether you build what you want or spend your life wishing you had. The world will always ask for more. The world will always want more of your attention, more of your time, more of your energy, more of your agreement. It will never stop asking, never stop demanding, never stop making you feel guilty for choosing yourself. Your job isn't to meet those demands. Your job is to refuse them. Every single day, you're going to face a choice. Give your attention to what's urgent or what's important. Give your time to other people's priorities or your own. Give your energy to seeking approval or building something that doesn't need it. The choice is yours. But you have to make it consciously, deliberately, without apology, because distraction and other people's opinions don't take days off. They don't respect your boundaries unless you enforce them. They don't care about your dreams unless you protect them. That's the key. These two enemies are relentless, but they're also weak. Distraction can't survive focus blocks. Other people's opinions can't survive boundaries. Cut off their access, and they die. Give them an inch, and they'll take your entire life. You've learned to destroy distraction and opinion. Now it's time to dismantle the two enemies that run deeper, the ones that require you to face what you've been avoiding and become who you've been afraid to be. Chapter 9. The Battle Plan. Destroying Enemy Number 5. your past self, and rebuilding your identity. This is the hardest one. Not because it's complicated, because it requires you to kill a version of yourself that you've spent years protecting. Your past self isn't just a memory. It's an identity, a story, a set of beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of. And that story is a prison. Consciously, divorce yourself from your past identity. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to write down every limiting belief your past self has convinced you is true. Get a piece of paper. Not your phone. Paper. Something physical. Something real. Write it all down. I'm not creative. I always fail. I can't. I'm bad with money. I'm not. Disciplined. I'm not smart enough. I quit everything I start. Whatever. Lies your past self has been telling you. Write them down. All of them. Don't hold back. Get them out of your head and onto the page where you can actually see them. Now, beside each one, write this. That was true for who I was. It's not true for who I'm becoming. This isn't positive thinking. This isn't affirmations or manifestation or wishful delusion. This is identity demolition. You're not upgrading your old self. You're not improving them or healing them or making peace with them. You're killing them, and you're building someone new from the ground up. The person you were, the one who failed, who quit, who wasn't ready, they served their purpose. They got you here. They taught you lessons, but they don't get to decide what happens next. You do. Create evidence against your old story here. Is the problem with trying to change your identity through thoughts alone. Your brain doesn't believe what you occasionally say. It believes what you repeatedly do. You can tell yourself you're disciplined all you want. But if you keep hitting snooze, scrolling for hours, and avoiding hard tasks, your brain knows the truth. You can say you're not a quitter. But if you've abandoned the last 5 things you started, your brain has receipts. Words don't change identity. Actions do. So here's what you do. You create evidence. Want to stop being someone who quits? Finish something hard. Not eventually. Now. Pick one thing you've been avoiding or half doing and finish it. All the way. No excuses. It doesn't have to be big. It has to be complete. Finish the book. Submit the application. Complete the project. Follow through on the commitment. One finished thing is worth more than 100 started things. Want to stop being bad with money? Make one financially disciplined choice. Save $50 this week. Track your spending today. Read one chapter of a finance book, then do it again tomorrow. And the next day. And the next. Want to stop being not creative? Create something. Anything. Write one paragraph. Sketch one drawing. Record one idea. It doesn't have to be good. It has to exist. You don't argue with your old identity. You don't debate it or reason with it. You replace it with evidence. Every new action is a vote for the person you're becoming. Your past self says you're a quitter. You finish something. That's one vote against the old story. Your past self says you're undisciplined. You do the hard thing when you don't feel like it. Another vote. Your past self says you can't change. You make a different choice than you've ever made before. Another vote. Cast enough votes, and the election isn't even close. The new identity wins. The old one dies. That's how this works. Embrace the mourning period. Now here's what nobody tells you. Killing your old self is supposed to hurt. You're going to feel loss. Real deep, uncomfortable loss. Your old coping mechanisms, the ones that kept you safe, that soothed you, that made life manageable, they're going to be gone. You won't be able to reach for distraction when things get hard. You won't be able to seek comfort when you're afraid. You won't be able to hide behind the familiar story of who you've always been. Those things protected you. And now they're gone. That's going to feel wrong, scary, empty, old relationships built on the old you. They're going to strain. Some will break. The people who loved you because you were safe, predictable, manageable, They're not going to recognize this new version. They're going to push back. They're going to try to pull you back to who you were because that's who they're comfortable with. The familiar comfort of your limitations will disappear. You used to know exactly who you were, what you could and couldn't do, what was possible for someone like you. That certainty is gone now, and in its place is uncertainty, possibility, the terrifying freedom of not knowing your limits anymore. This grief is normal. It's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're actually changing. Most people turn back here. They mistake transformation for a mistake. They feel the pain and think, this isn't working. I'm making things worse. I should go back to how things were. Don't. The pain is proof it's working. You're supposed to feel this. Loss is part of the process. Grief is the price of growth. You're not just changing habits. You're changing who you are. And becoming someone new requires letting someone old die. That's hard. It's supposed to be the person you're becoming doesn't exist. Yet here's what makes this so difficult. The person you were, they're familiar. You know them. You've lived with them for years. Even if they were limited, even if they held you back, at least they were known. The person you're becoming, they don't exist yet. You can't see them. You can't feel them. You don't know what it's like to be them. All you have is faith that they're worth becoming. That's terrifying. You're trading certainty for possibility. The known for the unknown. Who you were for who you might be. And there's no guarantee, no proof. No evidence yet that the person you're building is real. But here's the truth. They are real. Every action you take toward the new identity makes them more real. Every vote you cast makes them more solid. Every time you choose the hard thing over the comfortable thing, you're bringing them into existence. You're not trying to find this person. You're not trying to discover them, or uncover them, or reveal them. You're building them. From scratch, choice by choice, action by action, day by day, and that work, that painful, uncertain, uncomfortable work, that's what makes them real. This is what identity change actually looks like. It's not a moment. It's not a breakthrough. It's not waking up one day and suddenly being different. It's making a different choice today than you made yesterday. It's doing the thing your old self would never do. It's finishing what your old self would quit. It's being uncomfortable, uncertain, and unrecognized, and moving forward anyway. It's mourning who you were while building who you want to be. It's messy. It's slow. It's painful, and it's the only way. You can't skip the grief. You can't avoid the discomfort. You can't keep the safety of your old identity while reaching for the freedom of a new one. You have to choose. The old you is already dead. Here's what you need to understand. The person you were 5 years ago, they're gone. They don't exist anymore. You're not the same person who failed back then. You're not the same person who wasn't ready, who didn't know what you know now, who hadn't survived what you've survived. That person is dead, but you're still carrying their corpse, still listening to their voice, still making decisions based on their limitations. It's time to bury them, not with resentment, not with shame, with gratitude for what they taught you and the clarity that their time is over. You don't owe them loyalty. You don't owe them consistency. You don't owe them the comfort of staying exactly who they were. You owe yourself the courage to become someone new. That's the key. Your past self is already dead. The only question is whether you're going to keep pretending they're alive, or whether you're going to step into the identity that's waiting for you. Every action is a vote. Every choice is evidence. Every uncomfortable moment is proof that you're changing. The pain isn't a sign to turn back. It's a sign to keep going. You've killed your past self and learned to protect your attention and boundaries. Now it's time to face the two enemies that run deepest. The fear that paralyzes you and the comfort that keeps you trapped. Chapter 10. The New You. living free from the 5 enemies, you think this ends. It doesn't. The moment you defeat these enemies, they'll come back. Different mask. Same threat. Freedom isn't a destination you reach. It's a daily practice of warfare. And the person you're becoming? They're going to live on the battlefield. The enemies never truly die. They evolve. Here's what you need to understand. You're never done with this work. You'll defeat fear today. You'll choose discomfort. You'll maintain focus. You'll ignore the opinions. You'll act as your new self. And tomorrow, the enemies return, but they're smarter now. More sophisticated. They've learned from the last battle. Comfort won't show up as scrolling or binge-watching. It'll disguise itself as work-life balance. It'll whisper, "You've been working so hard. You deserve a break. You've earned the right to take it easy." Fear won't feel like panic. It'll pose as being strategic. It'll say, "Let's wait for the right time. Let's gather more information. Let's be smart about this." Distraction won't look like social media. It'll call itself networking. It'll say, "This is important. This could lead somewhere. This is actually productive." Other people's opinions won't come from strangers. They'll come from people you respect. They'll be wrapped in concern. "I'm just worried about you. I don't want to see you fail. Are you sure about this?" Your past self won't speak in old stories. They'll speak in new doubts. "Maybe I'm not actually capable of this level. Maybe I was right about my limitations. Maybe this new version isn't who I really am." The enemies adapt. They learn. They find new ways in. But here's what changes. You get better at recognizing them. 6 months into this practice, you'll spot comfort trying to seduce you before it even speaks. You'll feel fear rising, and you'll move anyway before it has time to build its case. You'll see distraction reaching for your attention, and you'll cut it off instantly. This is what mastery looks like, not the absence of enemies. The speed at which you eliminate them. You'll become unrecognizable if you actually do this work. If you fight these battles every single day for the next 6 months, people from your old life won't recognize you. Your choices will confuse them. Why are you saying no to things you used to always say yes to? Why are you so focused? Why aren't you available anymore? Why did you stop caring what they think? Your discipline will intimidate them. You wake up at 5 a.m. now. You haven't missed a day. You actually do what you say you're going to do. Every time, your focus will make them uncomfortable. You don't respond to texts immediately anymore. You don't engage in gossip. You don't participate in complaints. You're not interested in the drama, the noise, the endless circular conversations that go nowhere. Good. You're not trying to be recognized by your past. You're trying to be unrecognizable to it. The person who breaks free from these 5 enemies doesn't get to stay the same. They can't. The old version couldn't exist in this new life. The new version can't exist in the old one. You become someone new entirely, new standards, new boundaries, new priorities, new identity. The people who loved the old you for being safe, predictable, available, and small, they're going to struggle with this version. Let them. Their discomfort with your growth is not your problem to solve. Their need for you to stay the same so they feel better about staying the same is not your responsibility. You didn't start this war to make other people comfortable. You started it to become free, and freedom always costs relationships with people who were only there for the imprisoned version of you. Your new responsibility. Once you've seen these 5 enemies clearly, you can't unsee them. You'll start recognizing them everywhere. In your friend who's stuck in comfort, complaining about their life but refusing to change anything because change is uncomfortable. In your partner who's paralyzed by fear, dreaming about what they want but never taking the first step because they're terrified of failing. In your colleague who's drowning in distraction, always busy but never productive, always in motion but never moving forward. In the family member who's trapped by others' opinions, making every decision based on what people will think instead of what they actually want. In the person you used to be, still living in the shadow of their past self, still making decisions based on who they were instead of who they could become, you'll see it all, clearly, instantly. And here's what happens next. You'll want to help. You'll want to shake them awake. Tell them what you've learned. Show them the enemies. Give them the battle plan. Some will listen. Most won't. That's not your fault. And it's not your job to force them. Your war doesn't end with your freedom. But it doesn't extend to fighting other people's battles for them either. What it does extend to is this: being proof. Being living, breathing, undeniable proof that the enemies can be defeated. You don't preach. You don't lecture. You don't try to convince anyone. You just become the evidence. You show them what's possible by becoming it yourself. You show them what discipline looks like by being disciplined. What focus looks like by being focused. What freedom looks like by living free. Your transformation becomes their permission. Not because you told them they could change, because you showed them someone who did, the life you're building. Let me paint you a picture of what's on the other side of this war. You wake up and you know exactly what matters. No confusion, no distraction, no wasted energy on things that don't move you forward. You make decisions quickly because you're not paralyzed by fear or seeking approval or checking with your past self. You assess, you decide, you move. You work with focus that most people will never experience. 3 hours of your focus time produces more results than most people create in 3 months of busy work. You say no without guilt. You disappoint people without apologizing. You set boundaries without explaining. Because you know your time, your attention, your energy. These are the most valuable things you have. You take risks that terrify you. And you do it anyway, because you've trained yourself to act despite fear, not wait for it to disappear. You're comfortable being uncomfortable. You've rewired your nervous system to see discomfort as growth, not danger. Challenge excites you now instead of scaring you. You've built evidence of who you are through your actions. You don't have to convince yourself or anyone else. The results speak. The finished projects speak. The kept promises speak. You're free. Not because the enemies are gone. Because you've become someone who defeats them daily, automatically, without hesitation. That's the life waiting for you. This is what you signed up for. When you started reading this, you were looking for an answer. How do I stop sabotaging myself? How do I finally change? How do I break free? This is how you identify the 5 enemies: fear, comfort, distraction, other people's opinions, and your past self. You understand how they work together, how they trigger each other, how they form a system designed to keep you trapped. You declare war on all 5, simultaneously, without negotiation, without compromise. You fight every single day. You choose discomfort over comfort, action over fear, focus over distraction, your own approval over others, your future self over your past self. You build new evidence through new actions. You create a new identity through repeated votes for the person you're becoming. You endure the grief, the loss, the discomfort of killing your old self and building someone new. You become unrecognizable. And you stay there. This isn't motivational content. This isn't inspiration. This is the actual requirement. The work is hard. The enemies are relentless. The battles never end. But you know what's harder? Living your entire life trapped by these same 5 enemies. Watching the years pass. Wondering what you could have become if you just fought back. That's harder. The choice is yours. You can close this and go back to your comfortable, distracted, fear-based, approval-seeking life. You can let your past self continue running your future. You can keep losing the same battles day after day, or you can go to war. Today. Right now. This moment. You can identify which enemy is active right now and attack it. You can choose the uncomfortable action. The one that scares you. The one that requires focus. The one people won't understand. The one your past self would never take. You can start casting votes for the person you're becoming. The enemies are waiting. They're in your head right now, building their case for why you should stay comfortable, stay safe, stay the same. Your job is simple. Prove them wrong, not someday. Not when you're ready. Not when it's convenient. Now that's the key. Freedom is a daily practice. The enemies evolve so you evolve faster. You become unrecognizable, and you help others by being proof that change is possible. The war doesn't end, but you become someone who wins every battle. That's who you're becoming. That's who you are now. The war is yours. Fight it. So let's review what you now know. You have 5 enemies. Comfort that keeps you trapped in the familiar. Fear that speaks in your own voice and calls itself reason. Distraction that steals your hours while pretending to be productivity. Other people's opinions that have built an invisible prison around your potential. And your past self. The ghost you keep alive by refusing to let new evidence override old stories. These enemies are not external. They're inside you. They've been inside you for years, maybe decades, quietly killing every version of yourself that was brave enough to try for more. But now you see them. You've named them, and the moment you name an enemy, you strip away its power to operate in the shadows. You now have a choice. You can close this audiobook, nod along, feel briefly inspired, and then return to the exact same patterns that brought you here. Or you can declare war. Starting today. Starting this hour. Choose one enemy, just one, and take one action that directly opposes it. Do the uncomfortable thing. Move despite the fear. Protect your focus. Disappoint someone who's been holding you back. Do something your past self said you couldn't. The life you want isn't on the other side of perfect conditions. It's on the other side of destroying these 5 enemies. And the war starts now. Not tomorrow. Not when you're ready. Now go.